Looking to improve your squad on Ultimate Team? Visit IGGM.com for safe and reliable coins with the link in the description. Use my promo code NA to get 5% off. What's good, y'all? It's been a while, but we're finally back. FC25's released. I haven't done custom tactics in a really long time. I think it's been like 2-3 months now, specifically because FC24, the custom tactic, the situation in that game just completely died off by summer, to be honest. There was really only the 4-3-2-1 with 100 depth at that point, so I couldn't really release tactics when there's only one meta at that point of the game. So I just left it as is, decided to wait until FC25, and here we are. And today we're using the 4-2-2, which I found to be one of the better, if not one of the best, starter formations to use in the game so far. Obviously, the only con being you need players that can play the cam position in this. There's no left wing, left mid, right mid, things like that. So you're going to need players that can play cam and striker, which can be a limitation, but if it's not for you, let's say you have the coins or you just have the players like I do, for instance, having Cuckoo and Neymar right here, this formation will really operate just like my 4-2-2 from last year as well. So if you like that one as well, you're going to have a lot of fun with this. And me personally, I really like this formation specifically because of how solid it is defensively and how there's a specific idea that we'll get into when we talk about this in a moment. But to go straight to the tactic, we're going to go to team management right here. I have it set to my default tactic. For this video specifically, I won't do this for future videos, but for this video specifically, I don't have the code, and that's because I want you guys to first watch this video and understand the fact that your custom tactic right here is going to be slightly different than mine, because I want to explain what you might want to put instead of just having you copy what I do word for word. I'm saying this because this FIFA is not the FIFA like last year where you can just copy paste a custom tactic and then have it work exactly like you want. You're going to have to first understand what roles that you might need depending on your players and what role plus they have, and then making some changes that are appropriate for you. So what you see right here is not necessarily what you're going to be using. We're going to be going over a couple things right here, and then I'll let you know what you might want to change or what needs to be exactly as is. But what needs to be exactly as is the fact that you're playing with the counter build-up style with a defensive approach of 89 specifically. And we're using 89 specifically because it's a really high depth system that has automatic offside traps. So it's going to be really stable defensively, and the whole point of this, combined with the counter build-up style, is that when you win the ball back, your players are immediately going to be making runs forward, especially your 4 attackers up front. They're going to be making penetrative runs, so you can go from defense to attack within seconds. The objective here is basically just to win the ball back as quickly as possible, force the other team to be offside, win the ball back in an earlier phase of play. That way you can win a through ball where you don't have to worry about, building up through the midfield or things like that. So this isn't a traditional build up, formation where you just build up through the middle, break down the other team's defense or midfield. The objective here is to score as soon as possible when you get the ball back. And with that being said, we can just go straight to the player roles. You're going to have your 2 strikers up front right here I have Felix and Ronaldo. I have them both on advanced forward, and basically if you don't understand what advanced forward is, it's basically just like last year, except advanced forward is as simple as, think of having a striker on complete default, basically almost. Now, a lot of people like using Poacher, and if you do want to use Poacher, I would have one of them set to Poacher, but don't have both set to Poacher because you're going to need a player that is able to link up with your cams and come short for the ball, if you want to do a skill move to actually penetrate the other team's defensive line. Advanced forwards still make runs in behind, except they're less about making runs in behind and more about being an all-around striker, if that makes sense. So this is basically the most versatile, the most adaptable striker instruction or role that you can use so far. But with Ronaldo right here, I have been experimenting with, in some games, having him on Poacher instead of having him on advanced forward. And Poacher is just having him make way more runs through the middle of the pitch, and it is very strong to be exact. Now you might notice that Ronaldo doesn't have the Poacher Plus or the Poacher Plus Plus, and that is mainly because you don't have to worry about players not having a plus or a plus plus. The easy way to put it is that if you cannot notice a difference in game, then you have nothing to worry about. And what I mean by this is if there's not a situation where you can be like, oh, that striker was supposed to make a run here, or oh, that striker would normally not make a run right here. If you're not noticing these straightforwardly, then the difference between having a plus and a plus plus or having nothing is not very noticeable. It's not really important. So don't be one of those people that are spending extra coins just to make sure you have a plus or a plus plus, because to be quite honest, it's not really a big deal. In FC24, you wouldn't have paid an extra 20k coins just to get someone with high medium rather than medium, you know what I mean? Now obviously if you have the striker and you want to give it a try, then be my guest, absolutely try it yourself. But don't just write off a card just because he doesn't have the plus plus or the plus. it won't make a difference or a significant difference at the end of the day. There's still going to be a good striker. There's not going to be a situation where a poacher or an advanced forward or whatever that doesn't have the plus is not going to be a good striker. They're still going to be effective. But yeah, that's the same thing that goes with Felix right here. You're going to want a player here that is really good with the ball at their feet, because advanced forward right here is the more versatile type of striker. Do skills with this guy. He's going to come short for the ball. He's going to be everywhere in the final third, really versatile. Even though it doesn't say he's versatile at the bottom right, I would ignore that because he is definitely versatile. It's arguably the most versatile type of striker, but yeah. And then you're going to have your two cams right here. Now, I have my playmaker on the left and the shadow striker on the right, but it doesn't matter which one you have. I would focus more on making sure that, you know, with the meta with Chavelas, as well as the finish shot still being meta as well, I would recommend that you have it oriented based on the trait that the player can use. So for example, Neymar right here, he's right-footed, he has Chavela playstyle, I believe. I'm able to hit Chavelas from the right side, for instance. Now, I have one on playmaker and one on shadow striker. You can have the shadow striker on the left if you want. It's not going to make a huge difference. This custom tactic is asymmetrical. But basically the difference is the shadow striker is going to act as basically the player that's going to take advantage of the space that's opened up by the striker. So what I mean by that is when the strikers are making their runs, they're going to be dragging the center backs out of position, things like that. The shadow striker is going to be the player that basically tries to find the space that's been opened up by the strikers and insert himself right there to finish, basically. So you're going to want someone here that is really good in terms of dribbling and shooting, because sometimes they're going to be in spaces in the box where they don't have too much space, and in situations like that you're going to need a player that can get himself out of that space and go straight into a shooting scenario. Or sometimes they'll be straight in a shooting scenario if you're playing against someone that doesn't have good defense, but I wouldn't necessarily rely on that. And then your playmaker right here, this is going to be like the actual cam, if anything. Even though he's on the left, he's going to be a player that when he has the ball, you're going to have a lot of space to dribble as well as pass. So it's basically like what the name suggests. He's going to be an actual playmaker, but he's still going to be out wide, which is kind of the con with this custom tactic, if anything, because you would want the playmaker to be more central, but we still make it work, to be fair. You can have two playmakers on this custom tactic, or you can even have them both on shadow striker. The issue of having both on shadow striker is when you're building up, you might not have many options, because the playmaker is a player that's going to come short and receive the ball. So let's say you're in a situation where your team is just, you're struggling to build up through the middle. You can theoretically speaking have both on playmaker, but the problem is you're not going to have a player that's taking advantage of spaces that are opened up by strikers. So you might be struggling to, you know, get goal involvements with players that aren't strikers, basically. Or you can just have both on shadow striker. It's just the con with that specifically is you're going to be relying on your two CDMs right here, which are going to be holding deeper positions because they're CDMs to begin with. You're going to be relying on them for creativity, for assists, for things like that. This isn't a problem necessarily if you're really good at counterattacking, basically. If you're relying on counterattacks for your goals, if you're really efficient on that regard, you can absolutely make that work. This is what I mean by you can't really just copy paste a tactic word for word and expect it to work out. I'm trying to create a tactic for you here that is, you know, adaptable to your situation, basically. So basically, just to keep it short, if you just need straight counterattacking, quick football, have them both on shadow striker. If you need both players to really facilitate setting up the strikers, you can have them both on playmaker, but just be aware that they're not going to be too contributive in scoring goals themselves. But me personally, I found the balance of having one on playmaker and one on shadow striker. I'm still really good on the counterattacks, and I'm not having any issues in particular in terms of build up through the middle. And then your two CDMs right here, your double pivot, one's going to be on deep lying playmaker and the other one's going to be on holding. Now you can have both on deep lying playmaker. Deep lying playmaker and holding is very, very similar in game, especially defensively. Defensively, it's almost the exact same thing. However, the thing is, with deep lying playmaker, when your center backs have the ball, your deep lying playmaker is going to check in to receive the ball. So you might not need to have both, because if you want to have that, you know, that connection from center back to CDM, from CDM to cam, you might be better off having one on holding and then one on deep lying playmaker. Or if you just want straight defense, you don't care about build up, you can have both on holding. Because the one con with deep lying playmaker is that they step up a little bit higher when your strikers and your cam have the ball. So in transition, you're not going to have that wall of 6 defenders, basically, which can be too much. If you don't want having 6 defenders, you can have one on deep lying playmaker. It's up to you. But there's really no wrong answer here, to be honest. I'm just telling you what the pros and cons are, so that way you can adapt it based on what you want personally. Your two center backs, I will say right now, using defender and defend is all that matters. You don't need stopper, you don't need ball playing defender. I wouldn't recommend ball playing defender at all. All it does is put you at more risk of being counterattacked, if anything. I have yet to see a single benefit of playing with ball playing defender, and I've played with a lot of ball playing defender. I've yet to see a situation where I'm like, okay, a ball playing defender helps me right here. I've found defenders to just be the most efficient in reducing risk and keep them in position at all times. And like I said, with the 89 depth, you don't need to do anything else in terms of getting them to be really aggressive in offside traps. You can have them on defender, defend with 89 depth. They're going to have a really aggressive offside trap. So changing the role here will not do a thing to the automatic offside trap. And then your two fullbacks right here. It may have not been the meta last year, but this year, especially in a 4-2-2 that has 2 CDMs, guys, having wingbacks instead of keeping them on stay back is really, really efficient. Especially if you have left backs and right backs with good dribbling, good passing. You're going to want these guys to hold the wide channels regardless. That way they're able to support the left cam and the right cam. And like I said, with the 2 CDMs, they're going to basically effectively cover the defensive responsibilities when these players step up. I can't confirm this for a fact, but I do believe CDMs having the plus will make them more likely to cover space. But that might be it for another video where I experiment with this, you know, more deeper analysis. But yeah, the whole point of having them on wingback is so, since these players are going to be more central, basically not fully central, but they're going to be like half central, if that makes sense. These players are going to be holding the fully wide channels on the pitch, on the left, on the right, which makes attacking a lot more easier, even if these players aren't touching the ball, because the other team's defense, their AI is going to have to worry about these players anyways. So it just stresses out your opponent, basically. If you have a player that has attacking wingback plus, I would advise that you try experimenting with him having on plus. I don't in particular, because I haven't needed to use my wingback for attacking as much as I think I would need to, and also the fact that I don't think both of my fullbacks are even that good to begin with. I don't really have good fullbacks. Gusto and Ait Nuri aren't really good cards that I would trust in this situation. But for people that have, you know, I know someone that had Frimpong and they had him on attacking fullback and they had a lot of success right here. If you have a card that has a plus on attacking wingback right here, go ahead and give it a shot. It might work out pretty well for you. If not, just have him on regular wingback. That'll do pretty well as well in attack. And then your keeper right here, sweeper keeper balanced. It literally doesn't matter here. Like I said this last year and I think it's the same this year again. I don't think there's a noticeable difference with sweeper keeper and regular keeper. You're still gonna have to press triangle or press Y to have them come out in situations. It may have different AI, but the reality is there's not gonna be situations where, or I believe there's not gonna be situations where a sweeper keeper is going to be a game changer by all means. So just do what you want. It's all personal preference right here. Like I said earlier, I don't have a code for this custom tactic in particular, primarily because I wanted you guys to understand what you're working with in terms of the player rules. That way you can make slight tweaks and edits based on what you need. For the most part, there aren't going to be custom tactics in this game where you can just completely copy paste someone else's and then have it work. It's not like FC25 basically. Back then you could just copy the same 4-2-3-1 or the 4-3-2-1 for 100 depth, and that's all you really need to do. This year it's not really like that. You need to understand what you're working with and why you have certain roles, and if that certain role doesn't fit your play style or your player's stats or their role plus, then I would advise against you know, just copy pasting at that point. However, in the future, for many people it might be more efficient to just have the code straight up. So in other videos I'll have the code posted somewhere in the video. I'll figure that out later. I'll probably have it in the comments, whatever, we'll see. But yeah, also this year, this FIFA is going to be the FIFA where I start streaming regularly. I've already begun streaming at the beginning of an RTG, which you can find with the Twitch in the description below. And I use this opportunity to basically work on custom tactics live. We can go over custom tactics. If you guys want me to experiment with certain things, I'll gladly do them in the stream. Or if you're just looking for a regular RTG stream, then that's what I have to offer as well. But yeah, guys, if you guys have any questions, concerns, complaints even, go ahead and use the comments below to discuss that. Let me know. I'm looking forward to creating a lot of fun custom tactics this year for you guys, as well as having a lot of fun on Twitch as well. This year's going to be a really fun year. Hopefully EA don't mess anything up in terms of content. This game could do a couple patches as well, so hopefully we get those as well. Without much more needing to be said, that's all, guys.